Random House Audio presents The Apprentice by Tess Gerritsen. Read for you by Boutsikaris. Today I watched a man die. I still marvel at the fact that this drama unfolded at my very feet. We must learn to appreciate the rare thrills that punctuate the otherwise monotonous passage of time. And my days do pass slowly here, in this world behind walls, where men are merely numbers, distinguished not by our names, nor by our God-given talents, but by the nature of our trespasses. We dress alike, eat the same meals, read the same worn books from the same prison cart. Every day is like another, and then some startling incident reminds us that life can turn on a dime. So it happened today, August 2nd, which ripened gloriously hot and sunny. I stand in the center of the exercise yard, my face turned to the sun like a lizard soaking up warmth. I hear the rumble of agitated voices, and I open my eyes. In a corner of the yard, a man lies bleeding. Everyone else backs away and assumes their usual see nothing, know nothing masks of indifference. I alone walk toward the fallen man. He opens his mouth and pink froth bubbles out. A red stain is spreading across his chest. The blade has slid in neatly between ribs and has certainly punctured the lung and perhaps nicked the pericardium. It is a mortal wound, and he knows it. He tries to speak to me, his lips moving without sound. He wants me to bend closer, perhaps to hear some deathbed confession, but I am not the least bit interested in anything he has to say. I focus instead on his wound, on his blood. I'm well acquainted with blood. I know it down to its elements. I have handled countless tubes of it, admired its many different shades of red. I've spun it in centrifuges into bicolored columns of packed cells and straw-colored serum. I know its gloss, its silken texture. I've seen it flow in satiny streams out of freshly incised skin. The blood pours from his chest like holy water from a sacred spring. I press my palm to the wound, bathing my skin in that liquid warmth. He believes I'm trying to help him, and a brief spark of gratitude lights his eyes. Someone grasps my shirt and hauls me to my feet. I'm shoved backwards, away from the dying man. In the chaos of that yard, I stand slightly apart from the other prisoners, who have always shunned me. I raise my hand, still dripping with the dead man's blood, and inhale its smooth and metallic fragrance. The other prisoners stare at me, and edge even further away. As brutal as these men are, they are leery of me, because they understand who and what I am. I search their faces, seeking my blood brother among them, one of my kind. I do not see him, not here, even in this house of monstrous men. But he does exist. Somewhere there is another, and he waits for me. Already the flies were swarming. 4 hours on the hot pavement of South Boston had baked the pulverized flesh, and the air was alive with buzzing flies. Though what remained of the torso was now covered with a sheet, there was still much exposed tissue for scavengers to feast on. A skull fragment had landed in a second-story flower box, and clumps of tissue adhered to parked cars. Detective Jane Rizzoli had always possessed a strong stomach, but even she had to pause, eyes closed. Don't lose it. Don't lose it. She was the only female detective in the Boston PD homicide unit, and she knew that the pitiless spotlight was always trained on her. Her partner, Barry Frost, had already tossed up his breakfast in humiliatingly public view, and was now sitting with his head on his knees in their air-conditioned vehicle. Loud voices drew her attention. A man in a dress shirt and tie was trying to argue his way past a patrolman. "Look, I gotta get to a sales conference, okay? But you've got your goddamn police tape wrapped around my car, and now you're saying I can't drive it?" "It's a crime scene, sir." "It's an accident." "We haven't determined that yet." "The whole neighborhood heard it happen." Rizzoli approached the man. "What exactly did you hear, sir?" she asked. He snorted. "Same thing everyone else did." "A loud bang?"
Yeah, around 7:30, looked out my window and there he was, lying on the sidewalk. You can see it's a bad corner. Asshole drivers come flying around it like bats out of hell. Must have been a truck hit him.
Did you see a truck?
Nah.
Hear a truck?
No.
And you didn't see a car either?
Car, truck.
He shrugged.
It's still a hit and run.
It was the same story repeated half a dozen times by the man's neighbors. Sometime between 7:15 and 7:30 a.m., there'd been a loud bang in the street. No one actually saw the event. They had simply heard the noise and found the man's body. Rizzoli had already considered and rejected the possibility that he was a jumper. This was a neighborhood of 2-story buildings, nothing tall enough to explain such catastrophic damage to the body.
Hey, can I get my car out now? The man said. It's that green Ford.
The one with the brains splattered on the trunk?
Yeah.
What do you think? She snapped, and walked away to join the medical examiner. Beneath sparse strands of silver hair, Dr. Ashford Tierney's scalp glistened with sweat. So what do we have here, Doc? Hit and run?
This seems to be the point of impact.
It's got to be a pretty big truck to cause this much splatter.
Not a truck, was Tierney's
enigmatic answer. A truck didn't do this? Said Rizzoli.
No, or a car either.
What about the tire marks on the Vic's shirt? Tierney straightened, his eyes scanning the street, the sidewalks, the buildings. Do you notice something quite interesting about this scene, Detective? Apart from the fact there's a dead guy over there who's missing his brain? Look at the point of impact. See the dispersal pattern of body parts? Yeah, he splattered in all directions. Point of impact is at the center.
Correct?
It's a busy street, said Rizzoli. Vehicles do come around that corner too fast, plus the Vic has tire marks on his shirt. Let's go look at those marks again. As they walked back to the corpse, they were joined by Barry Frost, looking wan and a little embarrassed. They reached the torso, and Tierney lifted the disposable sheet. The torso had broken into 2 parts, separated at the level of the umbilicus. Young male, well-nourished, appears to be of Hispanic or Mediterranean origin, in his 20s to 30s, said Tierney. I see obvious fractures of the thoracic spine, ribs, clavicles, and skull. Frost finally managed a comment.
I don't think those are tire tracks on his shirt.
With a gloved hand, Rizzoli touched one of the black smears on the victim's shirt and looked at her finger. You're right, she said. It's not a tire track. It's grease. She looked around and saw no bloody tire marks, no auto debris, no pieces of glass or plastic that would have shattered on impact with a human body. For a moment, no one spoke. Suddenly, the only possible explanation clicked into place. As if to confirm the theory, a jet roared overhead. Rizzoli squinted upward to see a 747 glide past on its landing approach to Logan International Airport.
Oh, Jesus, said Frost, shading his eyes against the sun. What a way to go. Please tell me he was already dead when he fell.
There's a good chance of it, said Tierney. I would guess his body slipped out as the wheels came down on landing approach. That's assuming it was an inbound flight. Well, yeah, said Rizzoli. How many stowaways are trying to get out of the country? She looked at the dead man's olive complexion. So he's coming in on a plane, say, from South America? It would have been flying at an altitude of at least 30,000 feet, said Tierney. Wheel wells aren't pressurized. Even in high summer, the temperatures at those altitudes are freezing. A few hours under those conditions, he'd be hypothermic and unconscious from lack of oxygen. Rizzoli's pager went off. She didn't recognize the number. A Newton prefix. She reached for her cell phone and dialed.
Detective Corsack, a man answered.
This is Rizzoli. Did you page me?
You want a cell phone, Detective?
Yes.
Can you get to a landline?
Not at the moment, no. She did not know who Detective Corsack was, and she was anxious to cut this call short. Why don't you tell me what this is about? A pause.
I'm at a scene out here in Newton, he said. I think you should come out and see this. It's about that case you and Moore headed up last summer. You know the one.
Rizzoli fell silent. She knew exactly what he was referring to. The memories of that investigation still haunted her, still surfaced in her nightmares. The Newton patrolman posted in front of the house was just a rookie, and he did not recognize Rizzoli.
This is a crime scene, ma'am.
I'm Detective Rizzoli, Boston PD, here to see Detective Corsack.
ID, please.
In the city of Boston, just about...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?